The first warning sign was the ice sculpture. Not because it was shaped like a swan the size of a small car, or because it glowed an alarming blue. The warning sign was that the swan had our company logo carved into its chest, which meant someone had approved a bill that could have funded my whole team for a month. The event was the Luminara Client Gala, hosted by my employer, Northbridge Advisory, at a downtown restaurant called Ember and Pearl. The room smelled like truffle oil and ambition. Executives floated in circles, laughing at jokes that were not funny, making eye contact only when it benefited them. My name is Megan Lane, and I ran operations. Translation: I built the trains, laid the tracks, and then watched other people pose in front of the station. My manager, Derek Rowe, was holding court near the bar, his suit so crisp it looked laminated. Beside him stood his girlfriend, Sloane Vance, in a silver dress that reflected light like a mirror designed to judge you. Sloane was not an employee. She was a lifestyle strategist, which seemed to mean she gave opinions for money and treated decency like an optional upgrade. I stayed on the outer edge of the room, talking to my teammate Brooke and pretending the canapes were profound. Then I noticed a client from Halcyon Bio waiting alone, looking bored and slightly lost. I walked him to his seat before he wandered into the kitchen. When I returned, the aisle between chairs had narrowed. People stood to toast, to greet, to perform. I threaded through the gap with a water glass in my hand, trying not to clip anyone with my elbow. Someone behind me shifted. I pivoted, my arm brushing a sleeve. That was all. Fabric on fabric. Sloane reacted as if I had shoved her. She turned fast, eyes bright with outrage. Her hand flew up and slapped my face with a sound that made the room flinch. My head snapped to the side. My earring popped loose and skated across the floor. Silence fell, sharp and total. Sloane leaned in, lips curling. "Watch where you swing your limbs," she shouted. "Some of us are valuable." My cheek burned. I tasted blood where my teeth caught my inner lip. Then the laughter started. People who had emailed me at midnight for help now laughed like my humiliation was a paid feature of the evening. I searched for one face that looked horrified. I found Derek. He watched me like I had spilled coffee on his reputation. He stepped forward, calm as a man ordering dessert. "Apologize to Sloane," he said, voice carrying over the room. "Now, or you can clear your desk tomorrow morning." Sloane folded her arms, satisfied, as if she had just corrected a defect in the furniture. A few people nodded along, like this was a normal clause in the employee handbook. I could have apologized. I could have bowed, smiled, pretended the sting on my face was my fault. That was the usual corporate dance, and Derek loved choreography. Instead, something cold and clear settled in my chest. I picked up my earring from the floor, holding it between my fingers like evidence. I looked at Derek, then at Sloane, then at the ring of amused faces. "No," I said quietly. The word was small, but it landed with weight. I turned and walked out. No speech, no tears, just the sound of my heels and the soft gasp of people realizing I had refused to kneel. Outside, the night air hit my face like a second slap, colder and kinder. I stood under the awning, trembling with anger. My phone buzzed. "Unknown number, one message. If you want them to fall, meet me tomorrow at 9. Bring nothing. Tell no one." Behind the glass doors, the gala rolled on without me. They had no idea the opening scene had just begun. I slept for 40 minutes, which is not really sleep. It is your brain stepping out for a smoke break. At 8:55, I walked into Wren Street Coffee, a quiet cafe with mismatched chairs and patrons who looked committed to minding their business. I chose a table in the back. A woman sat across from me at exactly 9 o'clock. Mid-40s, neutral blazer, eyes that scanned the room once and memorized it. "Mara Klein," she said, "Corporate Integrity Counsel." That title sounded like a locked door. She glanced at my cheek, then met my stare. "I saw what happened last night," she said, "and I have been watching Northbridge Advisory for months. Watching for what? I asked. Mara opened a thin folder. Inside were invoices and payment summaries. Your manager, Derek Rowe, has been routing client charges through a vendor called Silverfinch Concepts, she said. Silverfinch looks like a service provider. It is not. The work descriptions are fog, the payments are clear, and the timing lines up with his travel. My stomach dipped. Silverfinch was a name I had seen in our system, always attached to phrases like strategic alignment, which meant nothing and cost a lot. Why tell me? I asked. Because you run operations, Mara said. Derek knows how to smile at clients. You know where the records live. Also, after last night, they will try to remove you quickly. The cafe kept humming around us. Espresso machines hissed like tiny dragons. People chatted about weekend plans, unaware that my career was being measured on a scale. I should report the slap, I said. You can, Mara replied. They will label it a personal dispute at a social event, document it, and bury it. I am offering you something else. She slid a business card across the table. Just a number and an email. If you provide documentation, I can bring it to the board audit committee and external counsel, she said. If the evidence supports misconduct, there will be consequences. What do you need? I asked. Expense reports, vendor onboarding files, approvals, and internal emails about billing, Mara said. 2 years if possible. Also patterns of retaliation. Retaliation. The word fit like a glove I never wanted to wear. I thought about my last performance review. Strong results, Derek had written, but needs improvement in tone. Corporate tone is code for you spoke without permission. If I do this, I said, they will suspect me. Mara nodded. Suspicion is not proof. Also, whistleblower protections exist for a reason, and boards tend to wake up when they smell regulators. I stared at the card. It felt heavier than paper should. Why me? I asked, quieter. Because you were punished for doing nothing wrong, Mara said. Comfortable people do not take risks. Burned people sometimes decide to light the whole rotten structure. I almost laughed, because it was bleak and accurate. All right, I said. Tell me how to do it without getting caught on day one. Maintain normal behavior, Mara said. Act bored. Do your job. Copy quietly. Send nothing from the office network. Do not confront Derek. Do not mention Sloan. When I stood to leave, she added one more sentence. Derek will try to make you apologize on Monday, she said. Let him think you might. I walked out into the cold morning air, my cheeks still throbbing. For the first time since the gala, my anger stopped shaking. It settled, and it started planning. On the walk home, I kept rehearsing 2 futures. In one, I swallowed the slap and kept my job until Derek decided I was inconvenient again. In the other, I handed Mara the truth and let the chips fall like dominoes. I chose dominoes. Monday morning arrived with the sweetness of a tax audit. I walked into the Northbridge office at 8:42, the same time I always arrived, holding a coffee and wearing a neutral outfit that said, I am not a problem. The bruise on my cheek had faded, but people still looked at it like it was a memo. At 8:55, Tessa Ward from compliance appeared at my cubicle, smiling with the warmth of a refrigerator. Can we speak privately? She said. She led me into a windowless conference room and sat across from me, hands folded. About the gala, she began. There were elevated emotions. You mean when I was struck in front of clients, I said. We are characterizing it as an interpersonal misunderstanding, Tessa replied. It is important to protect the company image. So the image gets protection and I get slapped, I said. Tessa kept smiling. Sloan regrets her reaction. Derek is willing to move forward. But you created disruption by leaving. Is Derek firing me? I asked. That depends on your attitude, Tessa said. He would like a clear sign you are committed to harmony. Harmony. Corporate code for silence. I will consider my options, I said. Excellent, Tessa replied. Derek would like to speak with you later today. When she left, I opened my laptop and began my real work. I started with vendor onboarding files and searched for Silver Finch concepts. The folder was there. The paperwork was immaculate, too immaculate. The vendor address was a rented mailbox. The phone number was prepaid. The insurance certificate was a template that forgot to match its fonts. I copied everything to an encrypted drive. Next, expense reports. Derek billed travel to client work that did not match the cities. Phoenix billed to a client in Maine. Miami billed to a client in Oregon. Either he had discovered teleportation, or he was doing exactly what Mara suspected. By mid-afternoon, the pattern sharpened. Payments to Silver Finch spiked after major contracts closed. Then Derek booked travel. Then a second invoice appeared, marked urgent, approved within minutes. The deliverables were always vague: market narrative refinement, positioning review, executive messaging support. Corporate poetry that meant, pay me. At 4:45, Derek called me into his office. He sat behind his desk, fingers steepled, a framed photo of himself on a sailboat behind his shoulder. He gestured to the chair. Sit. Megan, he said, using my name like a warning. The gala was unfortunate. Sloane overreacted, but you made it worse by refusing to handle it professionally. Professional, I repeated, like being hit. Do not be dramatic, Derek said. We can put it behind us. I need certainty you will not create a human resources disaster. What do you want? I asked. You apologize to Sloane, he said. You send a short email that calls it a misunderstanding. We move on. In return, your role remains secure. There are many people who would love your seat, he added, as if it was friendly advice and not a threat. I smiled, polite and empty. I will think about it and let you know tomorrow, I said. Derek relaxed, satisfied. Be smart. I walked out with my face calm and my pulse loud. From my personal phone, I messaged Mara. I found Silver Finch onboarding files and billing patterns. Evidence is growing. Her reply came fast. Keep collecting. Do not change your routine. That night, after most people left, I logged back in and opened a folder labeled Executive Discretionary. Inside were emails that made my breath catch. Silver Finch was not just a shell, it was a pipeline. And Derek was not the only one drinking from it. On Tuesday morning, Derek arrived early, which was his version of a guilt confession. He swept past my desk without looking at me, phone pressed to his ear, jaw tight. An hour later, an email hit my inbox from Tessa in compliance. Follow-up discussion required regarding your commitment to a respectful workplace. Respectful workplace. Northbridge loved comedy. I spent the day acting like a normal employee while quietly building a case. More expense reports, more vendor histories, more emails where Derek pushed finance to rush approvals. One message glowed like a warning label. If anyone asks, this is client sensitive, do not loop procurement. After hours, I left with my encrypted drive hidden in my laptop bag. I did not go home. I used public Wi-Fi and sent Mara a secure folder link and a password that looked impossible to guess. She called minutes later. This is extensive, she said, and it reaches higher than Derek. Tomorrow at 9 o'clock, I present to the audit committee with external counsel. You keep acting normal. Let them talk themselves into a corner. Wednesday morning I arrived at 8:42, still normal, still boring. By mid-morning, rumors slithered through the cubicles. Strangers in dark suits were in the executive wing. Derek closed his office door and did not open it again. Then Sloane Vance appeared in the lobby like a storm cloud in designer heels. She marched toward the executive wing, spotted me near the printer, and pivoted. You, she said. Yes, I replied. Her smile was sharp. Derek says you are still being difficult. My work rarely requires instructions from lifestyle strategists, I said. Her eyes narrowed. You should apologize. If you do not, Derek will make sure you never work in this city again. I kept my voice calm. I will pass that message to my lawyer, I said. Sloane blinked. Her confidence wobbled, then hardened. You do not have a lawyer. Not yet, I said. But I have options. She stormed off, heels clicking like a countdown. At 11:30, a mandatory all-staff meeting invite appeared for noon. We packed into the main conference room. Tessa stood at the front with a stiff smile. Beside her was a woman I had never seen, gray suit, badge at her belt. Tessa cleared her throat. Due to an ongoing review, several individuals have been placed on administrative leave, she said. A murmur rolled through the room. Derek Rowe is no longer authorized to represent Northbridge Advisory, Tessa continued, voice tightening. Effective immediately. The room went silent. Someone whispered, "Is this about the gala?" Tessa did not answer. Her eyes flicked across the crowd and landed on me for a fraction of a second, then moved away. In the hallway outside, two security officers appeared. A minute later, Derek walked out escorted, face gray, tie crooked. He did not look at anyone. The man who had threatened my job over an apology could not even meet my eyes. Sloan burst from the executive wing behind him, shouting his name, shouting questions, shouting at strangers who did not turn around. Brooke gripped my arm. "How did this happen?" she whispered. I watched Derek disappear down the hall, the sailboat man reduced to a cardboard box and a forced exit. "It happened because someone finally stopped laughing," I said. "And because someone finally started listening." The meeting ended in controlled chaos. External counsel began scheduling interviews. People lined up, suddenly eager to remember every strange invoice and every uncomfortable conversation. Northbridge had always been loyal to power. Now it was loyal to self-preservation. My phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. I declined. It rang again. Voicemail popped up. "This is Derek. We need to talk now." I slipped my phone back into my pocket. He wanted a conversation. I wanted a conclusion. By Thursday, the office felt like a house after a fire. The walls were still standing, but everything smelled different. External counsel occupied 3 conference rooms. People came and went with nervous smiles and paper cups of coffee. Finance pulled reports like surgeons working fast. Procurement suddenly remembered it had rules. Tessa from compliance walked the halls with the expression of someone realizing her job description did not include protecting the wrong people. Derek did not return. Neither did 2 executives who had laughed the loudest at the gala. Their names vanished from the directory before lunch, like they had been deleted with a careful keystroke. On Friday morning, Mara Klein asked me to meet in a small boardroom on the top floor. The room had glass walls and an expensive view, as if even accountability needed a skyline. The interim chief executive was there, a woman named Elaine Park, with silver hair and the kind of calm that made chaos behave. External counsel sat beside her. A legal pad waited in front of Mara. Elaine nodded at my cheek. "I am sorry," she said. "Not for the optics, for the fact that you were treated like an object." I did not know what to do with a real apology, so I kept my hands folded and listened. Mara spoke first. "The audit committee has reviewed the evidence. The findings are severe: misbilling, conflicts of interest, and retaliation patterns. The board is terminating Derek Rowe for cause. No severance." I exhaled slowly. I had imagined this moment in dozens of ways. None of my fantasies included the quiet professionalism of it. Elaine continued. "Silverfinch Concepts has been referred to regulators. Additional parties connected to the vendor are under investigation. That includes Sloan Vance." I almost smiled. Almost. I did not want to look thirsty for revenge, even though I had been dehydrated for years. Mara slid a document toward me. "This is an acknowledgement of your cooperation and the protections afforded to you," she said. "Review it with counsel if you wish." Elaine added, "We also owe you more than paperwork. Northbridge has an operations vacancy at the senior level. You have been doing the work for years. We want you to do it with the title and pay." I looked at the document. The salary number made my eyebrows lift before I could stop them. Elaine noticed and actually laughed. "It is a lot," she said. "Consider it an apology that comes with health insurance." I signed. That afternoon, Brooke found me staring at my new office door plaque like it might vanish if I blinked. "You are really in there," she said. "I am," I replied. "Apparently slaps are an unconventional career accelerator." She laughed, then sobered. "Did you do all this?" I chose my words carefully. "I told the truth to someone who could act on it," I said. The rest was gravity. On Monday, I got one last message, a text from an unknown number. "You ruined everything," it read. "I know it was you." I deleted it without replying. Revenge is not a conversation. It is a structure. You build it quietly, with receipts and patience, until the people who thought they were untouchable discover they were standing on rot. 2 weeks later, I walked past the lobby and saw a delivery of new signage. Northbridge was changing its branding, as if a fresh logo could disinfect old choices. Maybe it could. Maybe it could not. At least now someone would check the invoices. At my desk, I opened a folder labeled Vendor Controls and started rewriting procedures. Not as punishment, as prevention. Because the best part of revenge is not watching an empire fall, it is making sure it cannot grow back in the same poisonous shape.